Well, let's talk about your duplex. Like, so why, like, when did you decide that that was something that you wanted to do?
Maybe 3 years ago. I decided that I didn't like the idea of getting a house that I'm just like paying for and I'm not getting anything back for it. It sounds stupid, but I'm just
No, that's like, see, like a lot of people say home ownership and push it. It's at least a valid argument to say, well, like owning a house and living in it isn't the best. It's not an investment per se,
right?
Because you need to live in it. So like you have to pay it. It's not really saving a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the duplex, on the other hand, is definitely like an investment.
Yeah, and it felt like a smarter decision. Like, it's me and my daughter, and she's 10. I think she was like 7 when I was thinking about this. And I was like, the average person stays in a house like 3-4 years anyway. So it's like, it doesn't make sense for me to have in my mind, I'm buying this forever home, like this huge couple $100,000 house just so I can say we live here, when it's like, what are we getting out of this? There's only 2 of us. Probably not going to want to live here in 3 years. So it's like
I try to get through to people that all the time, because for some reason, and I think especially black people think that when you buy a house, you have to live there for 30 years. And they're like, and they throw all these things out. I don't want a mortgage for 30 years, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I'm like, this is not how you should be thinking about this at
right.
all. Like,
exactly.
That's not realistic.
And
but from mortgages, you know that most people, they're leaving within 3 to 5 years.
Exactly.
On average.
And I actually feel like I had that conversation like with the whole like, 30 years, and people get all like, oh my God. I've had that conversation in mortgage. So it's like, I remember being told you have to kind of like get into real conversations with people.
Right.
To kind of find out what they need, also what they want. So I would talk to people like, oh, how long were you in your last house? Oh, we were there for 2 years. Is legitimately a real conversation I had. Oh, you were there for 2 years. Oh, your house before that. Oh, we stayed there about 3 years. I'm like, oh, okay, in this house, we want a 30-year mortgage. I was like, well, your pattern is that you tend to move around a lot. You guys are still the same company. Maybe you should look at doing like an adjustable rate. And they're like, oh my gosh, these are people who are high earners. Mm-hmm. They always moved. I'm like, I know that in your mind you've always thought that this was scary, but this makes sense for you.
That adjustable rate is super scary to people because, the housing crash and everything.
Yeah.
But, like, if you look at it, probably the last, 10 years, if you were on an adjustable rate mortgage, you probably made out. Yeah, probably adjusted down once or twice. And, I mean,
yeah,
how you going to beat that?
Yeah, but that same concept of like, oh, my gosh, I can't buy a house. It's scary and it's 30 years. It came into different places. So I realized that it makes more sense to buy and also to buy smart, because even if my first house isn't exactly what I wanted, it's not going to be my only house. So I bought in an area where they had solid schools because I have a daughter, and also the houses don't appreciate well. So I couldn't like buy it and sell it in a couple of years and then want to make something. It's not going to happen. Right. But they tend to hold their value, and a lot of people want to buy in that area because it's close to Philly. But they can feel like, they have their kids in a better school district. So I was like, okay, this is a solid place to buy. Even my tenant who's there, he's been there for 10 years. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, he was there. You took him over when you bought the property?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So you didn't never even get a new tenant.
I know. I think I'm a little scared too, like to buy my next one. I'm like, all right, I think I got lucky now. Like even during the pandemic, there was no like weirdness. It was just like, he still pays his rent. I'm like, okay. Like,
that's good.
So far, so good. Yeah, so that's when I decided I wanted to buy a duplex. So I went through NACA. And
oh, boy.
Yeah.
I got a lot to say about NACA.
Really?
Yeah.
NACA's crazy. But
you can big them up first, and then I'll tear them down. Go ahead.
Well, it's not even a big up. NACA is crazy, but I wanted a conventional loan, and I wanted to put in the cost of, like, the upgrades into my mortgage, and I wanted no PMI. So it was like, and I wanted a good rate, and my credit score was just average.
Wait, you did the hand program where you do some rehab in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't finish it, though, because my contractor bailed on me, but that's another story. I didn't have anything to do with NACA. It wasn't their fault. But my point is, NACA is not the best, but for me and what I was looking for, I thought it was worth it for me to kind of, like, go through their BS. I actually didn't get frustrated because I expected the BS.
And you're well equipped to, like, you understand the language of finance, so you can understand what they're doing. You know what underwriting is. You kind of understand why they're doing these things.
And the rate I got with no PMI, I was like, all right, this is worth it. Like, whatever.
Yeah, so you think the loan terms are probably way better than FHA and all that stuff, and even probably conventional, no?
Definitely. So it is a conventional loan. Like, my NACA loan is a conventional loan.
Okay.
Now I know, I didn't know this before, Bank of America is the one who actually has,
they
like,
fund it.
Yeah, so you can actually go through Bank of America if your credit score is a little better. say you got like I don't know, like even a 700 or like something high sixes, you can get the same deal as NACA through Bank of America. It's just that it's without the credit counseling and all that. So if you have a solid score,
but you could do the 0 down.
Yeah,
through Bank of America,
they give you like $7,000. Like they give you money.
Oh, so from my understanding, the reason of that is because they got some court case or whatever.
Yeah, because they sucked, so now they have to do better.
But you know what? They all suck. Like they just got caught. Like they all should be doing that.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, they have a program too. Yeah.
I did not know that. So good info there.
Mm-hmm.
So how long from start to end did your NACA process take?
Jeez, it was probably, all right, let me say, in actuality, it was 2 years, but it wasn't really 2 years. It was only 2 years because I knew that they were going to be ridiculous, and I had a gap of employment, so I know they needed a 2-year history. So I came in a year in, and I was like, hey, I know I can't do this until I get 1 more year. What do I need to have ready? I kind of like got the ball rolling.
Right.
But in actuality, I would say when I was really ready, probably 6 months, but I think it took so long because I could not find a house. Like I kept getting, like everybody else kept getting houses over me. I kept losing houses because I was looking for a multifamily. So
that's what I was going to ask you next is negotiating with NACA, right? So what I've been finding is that no one wants to accept a NACA loan, really. Like it's really tough. So like even if someone has an FHA offer that's comparable to yours, they're going to take the FHA one most of the time because even agents are like, what's NACA? I don't even know what that is, you know? So it's like makes it even more difficult.
So funny, I actually didn't have that problem. It was the reverse. So I had a really good, well, he wasn't really good. He was all right. My agent, he was good when it came down to it, but like I found my own house. But anyway.
Was your agent familiar with the NACA program?
Yeah, okay. He was already like a NACA agent. So he would kind of go into it like, hey, so the people that I lost deals, like houses to, they were cash. But my house, there were 8 offers, but I was the only conventional offer, even though it was NACA. So I got the house.
Oh.
And I just went for asking. By that time, I was just like, forget this.
I try to look. This 2020 has been crazy. So like, the housing market, at least in our area, is on fire here in South Jersey. And if you pay list price, you're probably lucky at this point. And I try to explain this to clients, and they are like, no, we want to negotiate. And I'm like, okay, well, they're going to tell you to F off.
I know.
Even if you're like 5 or 10 below list, they're not even going to think about you ever again.
Like, no, we weren't even doing it. I saw a house one day. It was like, oh, it's great. I saw it at 6 o'clock at night. I was like, yeah, let's go for it. But the next day he was like, yeah, cash buyer already got it. It's gone. Because it's like everybody was looking for it, especially multifamilies. It was like, my house was on the market for 5 days. There were 8 offers. The fact that I got it, I was like, what? Like, really?
I know, right? By then you're like surprised.
Yeah.
So
like, whatever.
So another thing with house hacking on the duplex, especially because you have a daughter, is finding a house that is acceptable for you to live in and the numbers work at the same time. Did you have trouble doing that?
No, so I didn't really know. Like, I knew how the numbers worked in theory, but like I have a friend who's like a real estate investor. He has like multiple properties, so I actually had him kind of like do like the bigger pockets, like calculation for me because it's like I did that and it looked like it made sense, and then he did it and he's like, yeah, this is a good deal. So it was a little smaller than I wanted, but it had like 2-bedroom and it was like all that stuff that I needed in terms of like space for she and I. Even though she says I have a walk-in closet for a bedroom. I'm like, shut up. You have a full-size bed in there. Like you're lucky.
So was it a converted into a duplex? Because a lot of the Philly like multis are like a row home and then they'll convert upstairs.
Well, it's a row home, but I think that I don't know. No, it's a true duplex, but
nice.
I don't know. Like I know it's zoned that way and everything, but I don't know if that's how it started off. But I did see some that were like, the conversion was ridiculous. Like you go upstairs and it was literally, you could tell that it was like, this is 4 bedrooms and they just made one a kitchen. It still even looks like a bedroom.
Right.
They just like put a stove.
That's what I run into a lot. And it's like most people don't like that, because it's janky, right? Like the layout doesn't make any sense. And,
mine, it's small, but the layout still makes sense. It's like kitchen, living room, dining room, bath, like all that stuff is still intact and it's like normal. And I also have like a corner house. So it's a little bit bigger than the other row houses.
Nice.
So, and I have like a huge yard and everything. So that's been really good. So it's like the other ones that I saw, I thought were a lot better, but I didn't get those. Everybody else thought they were better too. Like
I think it's good. You had a good attitude about it. Like you were going into it with like, Because I feel like people want to buy their dream home as their first property. And
Yeah.
it's like, this is not realistic.
Exactly.
Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that prevents a lot of people from doing stuff.
Yeah. I think that first one that I saw definitely was the ideal. It was like split level, like you go in and it was like a downstairs and upstairs, and you go to the next one, it's a downstairs, and it was so great. It had 2-car garage. I was like, yes. It was like, no, the cash buyer said yes too.
Yeah,
it's like
can't compete with the cash buyer.
No, it was done, but this one was good. So I'm pretty good with it. I don't think I'm going to be there for more than a couple of years.
What's your plan?
So now I don't. Initially, my plan was going to be to keep my NACA mortgage. I know I'm saying this on recorded. You're not supposed to do this.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're not supposed to.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to move out.
Technically, you have to refinance it.
Technically, but the crazy thing is rates are starting to get really low, so I might refinance it anyway.
There you go.
Like right now, my loan to value is a little too tight that I wouldn't refinance it because I would have to refinance into PMI, and that's ridiculous.
Right.
But honestly, realistically, I can probably, if it makes sense, I can probably just buy that down.
It's that close.
Yeah.
Basically, the loan to value is how much equity, or the opposite of the equity in the property.
Right. So when I reach that 20% equity position, I will probably just refinance it anyway if things stay the way they are, because right now rates are like 2.99, 2.875. I can get that. So, and I had a 3.875, which I was bragging about to the office when I got it because the average rate was like 4.25. So I was like, look at me. I did not buy it down. I'm glad I didn't too. It's funny because my real estate agent was like, you should pay points to buy it down. And mind you, I'm in mortgage. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Never makes sense in this market.
For this one, it didn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't. It makes sense sometimes. Like if you're buying a multi-million-dollar house and that difference of you paying a quarter point is a big deal, then you should do it. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, especially because the house, I wasn't buying an expensive house. I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy it down. 3.875 is phenomenal. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and then you just refinance later, you know?
Right.
And refinances are pretty cheap now most of the time, so it's not a big deal.
And as a conventional refi, I might even be able to get away without getting an appraisal, so that's good. So
that's nice.
That's probably what I'm going to do.
Very cool. So NACA was not you're prepared to deal with the headache. So it might be a headache for some people, but you knew what you were getting.
They kind of sucked. I think that my counselor, like they fired, it's funny. So while I was going through my NACA process, I had one loan counselor, and they knew that I was a loan officer. So, like, she would look at my paychecks and be like, wow. It's like, they pay them, like, nothing. So, like, I know people complain about
That's why they don't know what they're doing.
They pay them nothing, and they are not licensed. They didn't pass the SAFE exam. They were asking me.
People don't know a damn thing.
Yeah, they were asking me tips for how to pass the SAFE exam, and, like... And I would have to like tell them things. Like they'd be like, oh, this isn't right. I'm like, no, because this and this and this is the compensating factor for this. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, great. I'm like, all right, cool.
Oh my goodness.
That's serious. And then at one point they like fired everybody in the office. So like my loan counselor called me and she's like, yeah, you know, she was telling me that I had an appointment when they were about to fire them. So she was telling me what happened and it was BS. But she was like, you know, you think I can maybe use you as a reference?
Oh my goodness.
I was like, or you can call me with any, like, I don't know, I guess. And yeah, and then it was just one guy who was the only counselor. He's a great guy, actually. He was actually really knowledgeable, but I think they were like, he's knowledgeable. He could handle all the loans in office. Like, he had a heart attack in the middle of the process. Like, it was like, oh, he's out of office. He had a heart attack. And then he was back in like 2 weeks.
This is my biggest problem with NACA is that the counselors actually don't know anything. Like,
they don't.
I know, like, I'm not being arrogant, but I know a lot more than what these counselors are talking about.
They don't know anything.
Like, and then they're using their own proprietary language about stuff with NACA. Like, they're using their own terms that only they know in the office. Like, because we were trying to do a rehab one, and like they're throwing out, and it was just the biggest mess of all time.
Really?
So I had a client. She was using the NACA program. And she was going to rehab her property and convert it into a duplex. I guess this is a bit complicated. Well, the property was already a duplex, technically, in with the township permits and everything, but a lot of the stuff had to get converted. But they make you get a home inspection, a certified NACA home inspector, and they make you address every single item on there, which is not a realistic thing. Like, some stuff is just how the house is or it's older property. Yeah. And then they came up with a budget of like $175,000 for the rehab. And I'm like, this is a $75,000 rehab. You guys are nuts. And then they did an appraisal. It appraised short, and then like they wanted to let us appeal it, like because they didn't know. Like it took a month. It took over a month for them to respond to us asking for them to appeal it, just for them to say no. And it was just a whole clown show. And I just feel bad because the client gets screwed over. Just like in your case, like they fire the people in the office, and if you're trying to get a loan through, like these people are getting fired and they don't know what's going on, and so you get screwed. And if you're planning a move, it's a disaster. So
you're totally right. And I think luckily I was staying at my parents' house, so it was like I didn't have like this like you got to get out by this time. I was like, my parents have a 4-bedroom house. Everybody was gone except for my youngest brother, so it was like I was fine. Like, but I will say my real estate agent already told me like when we got started, he was like, don't pick anything that needs a huge rehab. NACA is not good for that. If it's like a quick kitchen job, yeah. But if it's like do this and do that, he's like, it's not going to work. So we're just going to stay away from that.
Disastrous. And I was really upset because they're playing with people's lives, and they're just ignorant and they don't care, and
they don't know. Like, but I think it's the NACA program as a whole, and I think that happens with a lot of like non-profit type places.
They don't have the experience. They don't know how to close loans
and the competency. They don't have it. Like, and it's not even the counselor's fault. When you see what they're doing, they overwork them and they pay them like pennies.
That's why it took them forever to respond, because she has too many files. So like they just couldn't respond. I get like it's not the ground level person; it's the whole infrastructure there. That have a big beef with them.
Like when they quit, they fired everybody and had this one guy. He actually is a good guy, but like you would talk to him, he'd be like, "This because he's carrying the entire office."
Right.
And they had like these people that were basically like, I guess you would call junior loan officers, like who were just doing like paperwork, but he still had to like do everything.
And that's the nonprofit world stuff. Like those people are not really qualified to do what they're trying to accomplish there.
Right. They were like, do you want to come on? I was like, oh yeah, no.
But I feel like the end result there is that you actually hurt people more. Like because my buyer kind of got screwed. Like she was planning to move into the property. She was months into the process, and the house was under contract and everything. And, she paid for an engineer. She paid for the home inspection. She paid for the appraisal. No, I'm sorry. NACA paid for the appraisal. But, they made her pay some money for due diligence, and then they just, like, ghosted for, like, a month. So the end result can actually be worse, even though they mean well and all that stuff. So that's my beef with NACA.
No, it's it's actually very legitimate. And that's also, even when I went into it, I was kind of already knowing, okay, this is going to be crazy. Let's try to make this as simple as possible. So even now when I said like my kitchen didn't get done and I put that in, it was because I hired a contractor, and then he just decided he wasn't good. He's like, yeah, no, I think I'm not going to do any NACA stuff. I don't know. It just seems like a lot. But he like didn't communicate with me. I'm like, we're supposed to be like cool. Like you just say, hey, I decided I'm not going to do this. Let me know, not, hey, I'm going to start doing XYZ and I'll get back to you. And then I'll hear from you for a month.
That happens with like the 203K too, where the contractor just is not equipped to deal with the paperwork requirements of, the NACA or 203K or whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, you could have just said something.
I know, he just
he just like disappeared.
Ghosted away.
And then I had some work that I needed to have done, like just that I was just going to pay for.
Right.
And then I had called him initially, like, hey, I was initially going to have this included in my NACA stuff. Is there any way that you could do that one thing for me? He was like, oh, no. But then he called back, hey, could you do it? I'm like, yeah, no, I hired somebody else. I just paid them. But thanks. He was like, oh.
So what happened? So you had $7,000 set aside for the kitchen within the NACA loan?
It's in my mortgage, yeah.
And then he just ghosted.
Ghosted. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go to Home Depot tomorrow. I'm going to get this and that, Yeah, you can go ahead and order your appliances.
Oh, God.
So I have my washer. I mean, not my washer. My new stove and like all the stuff that we like chose and like did all the measurements for in boxes. And he just decided he just wasn't.
So what are you doing?
I don't want to say this. I had to find somebody new. My mom was like, this is what happens when you try to hire one of us. We just.
Oh, no.
I was like, don't say that, Mom.
That's a tough thing. Well, I have that thing because I always try to hire black contractors.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think it's that really.
I think it's contractors in general.
Contractors are the devil.
I've heard that they're flaky. I've heard all of that stuff. So I'm like, all right.
Trust me, I know.
So now I just haven't, because the thought of not having a kitchen when I'm like in there is kind of like, because before I wasn't there yet, so it was kind of like whatever.
Right.
I was still at my parents because I wanted everything to be done before I got there, but it didn't work out, so I just moved in. So now I'm just like, My kitchen works. It's just not up to date like I want it. Like it's fine.
I tell people this too, though. Like once you live somewhere, you just get used to it.
Yes.
Like, people are worried about the colors of the cabinets and shit when they're buying it. But look, once you move in, you be like, this works. Put the cereal up there.
I have that 1970s yellow laminate. I was like, whatever.
It works. Like, because then when you think I have to pay $7,000 to make this look nicer, then you're like,
the crazy thing is, it's not even the money. It's the thought of like hiring somebody who might flake on me in the middle, and then I'm like,
have no kitchen.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my god, like I can't bake this cake. I can't do anything. Like that is freaking me out. So it's like, I might just move out and then do that.